Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences.
Get on with it!
Hello and welcome to another Shelf by Shelf episode. This one has been long in the making for some time. This is a series that I started last year where I go through a single square on my Calyx and I talk about the various games on that shelf. Now the games may have 4 of them, there could be 8 of them, it could literally just be one game on the shelf. But essentially what I do is I pick it at random and just think, you know what, let's just have a quick talk about these games, why I still like them, but also kind of give a verdict at the end as to whether this is a keeper for life. So like, yeah, there's no reason I'm getting rid of this game, it's one that I really enjoy, or whether it's a potential cull. And by potential cull, I just mean that if I need to thin the collection out, is this one of the games that might be like, could be replaced if something better comes out, or if I just need to make space. I have recently done a mega cull of a lot of my games, so certainly my shelves have chopped and changed a little bit in places, but like I say, I'm still going to do this because I think I've only done like 4 or 5 episodes of this, and you know, I've been long overdue to get more episodes of this out, but thanks to the Essen reviews, it just took up a lot of time. So here I've essentially got the Libellude shelf. It might as well be because all of these 4 games come from Libellude and 3 of them share a similar mechanic. So certainly there's some comparisons to be made, although this isn't all the games I have with this particular sort of Dixit mechanic, but you know, I just want to give my little thoughts on there.
You had my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
So I'm actually going to start in the middle, actually. I want to start with the one game that isn't like the other 3. You know, one of these is not like the other, and that is Seasons. Seasons is very worn down in terms of this box. Wow, it is definitely showing its edges and that, but whew, there was a time when Seasons came out that it was really popular, but then it just kind of died from existence. Like, I never see anyone ever play this game, but certain friends of mine really love this, and I really love this. In fact, if it had a solo mode, it would be probably one of my favorites, but sadly it doesn't. It's 2 to 4 players, and it has to be played with that. And certainly if you're going to play it with 4 players, it does take a little bit longer, but you know, that's just the way of the world. But Seasons, it has just a really cool like set of mechanisms, and you're essentially in a magic tournament. You're playing for 3 separate years, but the timeline is dynamic. It can go forwards and even potentially backwards at certain different speeds, but during those 3 years you're basically playing kind of like a bit like a Magic the Gathering type game where you're building up a tableau of different familiars and artifacts and magic items, and you essentially summon them to the table and pay mana in different types. You know, it's definitely got that kind of Magic the Gathering feel, and you even draft the starting setup with the cards. So you draft 9 cards that you're going to split 3 in each of the different rounds, so round 1, round 2, round 3, and as you go into the different eras, you basically, you know, unlock those cards, but you can get more as the game goes on. So there's a bit of planning before the game starts where you have to consider which cards you want now and which ones you're going to get later. I almost considered this for the drafting list I did recently, but as important as that phase is, once that's done, the rest of the game doesn't involve any drafting. My copy's got 2 expansions in it, so I've got the Enchanted Kingdom as well as whatever on earth the other one was. I forget, the something moon, what was it? Path of Destiny, whatever. Now, these 2 expansions are cool in that they add more cards. In the main little extra rules that they do, like the little modules, I don't find myself using them very often. They're certainly not, you know, new player friendly, but I just like throwing in the new cards, you know, just having more of a selection. But this is so gorgeous in its printing. I mean, everything's bagged up. I do wish I had an insert for it, but you know, the color, the artwork is so sublime. They gave you good cardboard tokens. I have since upgraded them, which I think these are the Board Game Geek specific season tokens. I can't remember if they were Etsy or Board Game Geek, but these plastic ones, these plastic mana tokens, and they are so lovely. They are so glorious. Oh man, I love handling these, but not as much as I love handling these. Oh god, yes. It's practically a meme of me at the moment, of me just loving these dice. These chunky dice that you roll every round to dictate what potential options you have for mana, and it's an open draft in order to take these dice and utilize them on your turn. what can I say? They're addictive, these things. But yeah, I don't think I've come across a game that's made dice as addictive and cool as these. I mean, they're bolder, chunky dice. They look cool, they're custom, and I love the fact that in this game, when you go through the different eras on here, when you go into winter, you roll the blue ones, and then you go into spring, and now you roll the spring ones, and mana is less common or more common on certain different seasons. It's just a really good, fun tableau engine builder game that just doesn't get any more love these days, and of course, it's a keeper for me. It just ticks everything I like in a tableau builder, and it's definitely one of my favorites. I mean, you know, spoiler alert, it hasn't appeared on the top 100 yet, and I'm already up to number 60, so yeah, it's higher than that one for sure. How high? Well, you have to wait and see. But man, I still sing the praises of this game, and I would have loved to have seen, you know, I mean, it doesn't need a second edition or anything, the game's already really good. Maybe clean up some of the expansion rules, but that's about it. But I would have liked to have seen a solo mode for this, like an official solo mode of the game. You know, or even a spin-off side game that you can purchase on the side, and it just happens to be a solo, like, 1 or 2 player version or something. That would be really cool, but as it stands, still really love this one, and still like to bring it out every now and again. So that is Seasons. Right, oh yeah, you can have your rule books back. Right. So now let's talk about these three. These all use a mechanic which I basically just call the Dixit mechanic, and that is where you have these big cards which are a bit like Tim Burton on crack, where the artwork is all sorts of weird surrealness and, like, you know, really nice artwork, colourful, you know, but just like, what on earth was the person smoking when they came up with it? And the idea is that it's all about interpreting those pictures. So, you know, in some games I don't know, let's go on to the individual games, that would make more sense. So let's start off with the one that pioneered it, the original Dixit, and cool blimey, I nearly broke my left wrist just trying to lift this one. This box is rather heavy, because this box has basically nothing but a board and cards. And I mean, a lot of, I was meant to be a better reveal there, a lot of cards. There's a lot in this box. This box is jam-packed with Dixit cards. I think every small box expansion is in here, don't quote me on that, but certainly a lot. But this box is just nothing but these. I mean, this is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 giant piles of cards with this artwork, and I am convinced that I have probably mixed together these, so I don't even know if some of them will come from the same set or whether they're entirely mixed. It's just pretty much the whole collection of Dixit here, or at least as near as makes no difference. And I can use these in other games. That's one great thing about these Dixit cards. Yes, they'll have different backings, but if you can get past that little blemish, you know, I could happily just go, you know what? You know, my copy of Detective Club down there, I don't fancy using the cards in Detective Club, I fancy using these. And I can happily just throw them in and they're compatible, other than the fact that the back of the card says something different. You know, the variety in this game is off the friggin' chain. Now, the Odyssey version allows you to play with up to 12 players. I don't personally ever like playing this game with that many players, that's just kind of ridiculous. You know, you get 6 players in this and you're kind of having a good time, really. I don't think you need much more. But there is one thing with this that is a little concerning, because I don't find myself playing the original Dixit as much, given that I've got these other versions which I think are better. But I've also recently acquired on sale, it was only about £16, the Disney version of Dixit, which I haven't got to the table, but essentially it's Dixit but with Disney cards, which is such a good idea. I'm surprised this didn't happen earlier. But this is a nicer production. It's got Disney cards in it, which I think just suits the Dixit theme. So if I was to bring out a copy of Dixit, I would probably bring out this one because it caps at 6 players anyway. So this is probably the one that I would end up keeping. But I do have all these cards. So it's kind of weird. I'm certainly not gonna sell Dixit Odyssey, but I don't really have much reason to play the Odyssey version, given that I don't really care about playing it with 7 or more players, when I've got this nicer looking version. So it's hard to say whether this is really a keeper or not. I mean, it's kind of a keeper, I guess. I mean, I suppose keep question mark. You know, I'm not going to sell this. I'm probably going to play this one though, but I'm not going to get rid of all these cards. So essentially, rather than being Dixit Odyssey, it's more of a storage solution for all the other cards that I can just sort of whip out and exchange with the other games as willy-nilly. So it's kind of odd, you know, as much as this is a better version that I think I'm going to be playing more often, it is quite interesting to know that this one is like, well, I still need a box to hold these cards. I mean, this thing's heavy, so keep question mark, but I still think Dixit's a fantastic game, you know, of interpreting the different pictures, and a nice party game, nice and friendly, very new gamer friendly. And as much as I am horrendously bad at it, because I keep giving people too much credit with, oh, you're really crafty with those pictures. No, I just did that one because the clue was cooking and there's a frying pan in the picture. Oh right, I thought you were going to be a little bit more cryptic than that, and I keep like tripping over myself with that. But it's still really good fun game, still really like it. Just, oh blimey, there's a lot of cards in it now. Right, okay, so let's move on to, let's move on to Mysterium, because Mysterium kind of started the trend of different Dixit games. We already had Dixit itself, and for a while that was all you could get. But then they brought out this one. I think it was the first one. I mean, I hope I'm not wrong on that. But this was the first one that I came across where it's like, oh, you're doing something different with those Dixit cards now. Okay, I'm interested. And this is a fantastic game. This one has you working as a co-op team to try and figure out like a Cluedo-style mystery. So, who murdered, the person who murdered, what weapon they used, and what location was at. And the idea is that, again, using the aforementioned Dixit cards, I forgot I had a folded space insert in this one. You use these Dixit cards as well. They've got a different back, but whatever. You could easily mix and mangle these cards, no problem. But the idea is that you have the different cards for the various like characters, and let's see if I can find it, or a bunch of locations. So these very specific cards behind a DM screen, a Dungeon Master screen, effectively, the ghost plays like a silent game, like who can see which characters and locations belong to which player, and so they are giving the Dixit cards to the players in order to help them figure out which ones belong to them. So they're looking for clues like the colors, the objects, the theme, or anything like that. And you can be as vague or as cryptic or as simple and obvious as you want to be with these.
What am I, psychic?
I love playing the ghost in this game because as much as it is fun doing the deduction element, and I suppose that's one thing that speaks volumes about this game, a lot of games like say the Resistance and a few of these other ones where you have a team versus team, or like two different roles to play, I find myself going, I want to play the bad guys, I don't want to play the good guys. Good guys are boring. Here, as much as I love playing the ghost more, I still like playing the normal investigators who have to figure out the different picture cards, because that's still fun. So I'm having fun either way. But when I'm teaching this game, I typically play the ghost character, because obviously the ghost kind of needs to run the game and it just makes more sense. But I have fun teaching this, I have fun watching this game, and as the ghost, I love the tension that comes with like, how do I figure out how to get these cards to you and convey the right message? And it's like, I give you these two cards, okay? White, you get these two cards. And then you hear the group talking about them, and it's like, I reckon they're meaning this or this and that. And you're like, yes, that's good, that's good. And then some Bert comes in from nowhere and goes, well, but I know, what about this? This obscure bit here, it could have been that. And they start swaying the people, and in your head, all you can do is just go, shut up, Bart. It's like, it's really like annoying. But it's annoying in a fun way, It's just one of those things that comes with a lot of these, like, sort of can't speak games. I mean, Deception, Murder, and Hong Kong's the same. Now, where this game has a bit of an issue is that another game came out called Mysterium Park, and I reviewed that. I rated it a 10. I rated it a 10 out of 10. It is a game that I adore, but the issue with this is that it does go on a bit of a while. I mean, it says 42 minutes on the box. I don't believe that for a second. So 42 minutes, no way, that is not happening. But the other thing is that the game here has 3 rounds, of which the third round was a bit restricted with the weapons, but an expansion helped with that. But you had to like mess around with these clairvoyance tokens. You essentially like put them on the board, and you could guess whether somebody like in your group was right or wrong, and you gain these clairvoyance tokens, which helped you a bit more in the finale. So it wasn't competitive, it was kind of a weird mechanic, and the tokens were really small. The board in which you move the tokens on, I can't see it in the box at the moment, but where you collect them together was really tiny and fiddly, and it was just it's always regarded as the least popular part of this game. Anybody who says this game is great always sort of typically says, yeah, but those clairvoyance things are a little bit weird. And Mysterium Park doesn't have them. It's 2 rounds, it's circus-based theme, which means that the theme is kind of restricted. I'm kind of surprised that Liberlude hasn't brought out more sets, like I said in the review. Seriously, a scout camp setting, like an American Friday the 13th style camp setting, a school, a hospital, a church. You could do so many different themes with these Mysterium little sets, and they haven't done it, and I don't know why. But Mysterium Park is quicker, more portable, still pretty much the same game, better produced in a sense, like it's got, you know, a better like insert to like get everything out. Nowhere near as much setup as this one, because you don't have a DM screen or nonsense. It's just a good, cleaned up version that, as much as this game is still really good, I don't find my box farts all the time. As much as this game is amazing, I don't find myself ever bringing out this big version. And I don't want to get rid of it, do I? I don't know. Who would buy this off me though, when Mysterium Park exists? And Mysterium Park does have the problem that it is all circus-based themes, so like the setting and the locations and the characters are all to do with the circus. At least this one has a variety, so it comes up in all different shapes and guises. So, I don't know, and certainly I would keep the Dixit cards, because the Dixit cards can be used in anything else. I think this one probably has to go on the Cull section ? Just like Dixit was a keep ? This one probably has to go on the Cull ? Because Mysterium Park, which is on a different shelf for some reason, I don't think it could fit on this one, you know, is technically the better game. So will this one last? Will it be a storage thing like the original Dixit? Or will I keep this one and play it a bit and realise, you know what, I still really like it despite the clairvoyance tokens? We'll have to see, but yeah, it is one of those interesting things where, you know, a smaller iteration of it can replace the bigger game in some respects. I mean, certainly it takes up less space on my shelf. So we'll have to see how this one goes, frankly. Right. Now, the other spin-off that came from this, though, was Obscurio. And spoiler alert, I've talked about this in my top 100 already, but this one is essentially... It's a co-op but with a traitor mechanic. You're essentially trying to escape from like the Hogwarts library and a book is showing you the way, so there's your silent person like the ghost in Mysterium, and everybody's trying to figure out, all right, what picture do we need to pick in order to get out of this room? But one of you likes the library and wants to stay behind, and so they are trying to kind of manipulate the group or mislead them in such a way that they fail to get out of the library in time. But eventually the group will be able to make a decision of like, okay, as a group, who do we reckon is a traitor? I reckon it's you. You know, do a 3, 2, 1 point thing to try and suss them out. And they have to do it before these various tokens run out. If you thought Mysterium was too easy, my god, play Obscurio. This game is hard. You play this on the easy difficulty to start with. Trust me, you're gonna want to. And if the traitor is any good at this game, it's gonna be even harder. You know, this is a game that is lost way more than it is won from experience. But it's still great fun. I mean, you've got these trap cards that make the rounds individually harder, and those alone make the difficulty of this game kind of ridiculous. But, you know, it has some really good production values. I mean, I love this little board here where you put the various different picture cards that you have. So you've got like a very convenient folder to pass around between the book and the traitor. But the book itself is really cool. It's this very sturdy, like magnetic book with these little tokens that basically just stick to it. And you can kind of move it around. And so the cards are, you know, you won't get sleeves for these, because the sleeves for these I don't think exist. Round circle cards. But, you know, the card will slot in there, so, yep, fits in the book nicely. You can hold it like that. And then you use these pointers to kind of point to specific aspects. Like I'm pointing to the big sort of shadow dog in this one. And you've got the 2 cards. The trap cards can mess around with your ability to use these. But it's another one of those things where you, as the ghost player, effectively, looks at what's on the table, looks at what pictures are potentially available and thinks, right, I need to point you to this particular clue, and it's that same tension of can't say a word, hope they know what I'm talking about, but then you've got the traitor working against you, so you've got that aspect. But yeah, there's some really cool stuff you can do in here. I mean, you've got the, you know, these trap cards can throw like weird little wispy things over your cards, or they can put a red filter on stuff, which makes it a little bit tricky to visualize color details when you've got this thing on your camera all the time. They can add more traps. You're under a timer as well, so there's an aspect of stress there. There's a lot of these cards. I mean, again, whew, lots and lots and lots, you know, and these are all cool, although this is... Actually, I don't know. I suppose you could actually throw these into another Mysterium game or another Dixit or Detective Club game, because the shape is irrelevant as long as you're using the Dixit cards fine, although... This is probably the one game where I'm not that desperate to throw in these. And obviously you can't throw in stuff from these games into this one because they've got to be these round shapes. It has to be like that, otherwise it doesn't really work. But everything else is just generally pretty good production, and the game itself, again, is just really good fun. It's another one of those Dixit like iterations that made me go, oh, this is really good. Now I've got one with a traitor. So I've got like a competitive version, I've got a co-op version, I've got a co-op with a traitor version. Technically Detective Club is another sort of competitive version, but that one's more party-esque. I mean, in the same way that Dixit is more of a party game, this one is certainly a party game, Detective Club. And if you don't know what I'm on about, seriously, this game is fantastic. You need to check that out. In fact, I don't know if I ever did a review of it. I don't think I did, but seriously, you need to check out Detective Club. It is so good. But yeah, I still really like Obscurio, and it caters for 2 to 8 players. You ideally want a high count player count, so this is one where, unlike Dixit Odyssey where I don't want to play it with too many players, this one I'm actually happy to play it with a good 6, 7, 8 players if necessary, because having the team aspect, I mean, four on each side of the table with Obscurio is actually a pretty solid game, and it's hard to suss out the traitor when you've got 8 of you on table. Well, I say 8, you would have 1 person as the book, so technically 7 in the party, but still 1 out of 7 is hard to pick. It's just a really good fun game, and this one is definitely a keeper. This one is not going anytime soon. I really enjoy it. You know, it doesn't have any of some limitations that Mysterium does by having a small version out. It's unique in its own regard, and it's certainly tougher than the others. So if I want a particularly good challenge, then this is definitely one to throw out. But, you know, it's not too difficult to teach. It's still relatively simple, so I can pull this out with relatively light new gamers and still have a good time. So yeah, Obscurio, still a solid hit. Whew. So there you go. 4 games off another shelf, the Libellude section. I do generally like Libellude's games, although for the most part, as you can see, the main games I own from that publisher are all the Dixit-y style ones. You know, Seasons is a different type of game, but I don't think I have any other games in my collection that are from Libellude that aren't a Dixit game in their own right, and I'm not even sure if I've owned any others before. I'd have to double check. If I have, they've long since gone now. But you know, even if Libellude did nothing but the Dixit card mechanic, I'd still love it. I mean, another one that's just come to mind actually, Dixit Stellar. That's on a different shelf downstairs, and I really like Dixit Stellar. You know, it's a slight twist on the normal Dixit. So again, I've got a lot of these different games in my collection because, I mean, I like word games as well, but I just like art, the art style games I really gravitate towards. It's something different. I respect good art. I like good art. And when I basically have a game that just gives me all these weird types of art to see on the cards and go through the process of trying to interpret them, because you can only interpret a word in so many ways, but you can interpret a picture in 1,000 ways. You know, the whole picture is worth 1,000 words. So people will have different ways of looking at a picture, but looking at a word is pretty linear. It's why with code names, I refuse to play code names anymore. I'm bored with it. I don't think it's you know, that great. But I could play Codenames Pictures, which I think is the better version of all of the code names. The duet one's a 2-player, but I mean, still, it's words. It's harder to come up with the clues for the words. It's much better to come up with the picture ideas. And so Codenames Pictures is easily my favorite of that entire franchise, and you know, it will always be like that. But yeah, you could come out with more games with a Dixit card mechanic and I'd still really enjoy them. The only one I don't think I've tried is Muse. I read the rules, I couldn't quite fully understand what was going on in it and never got it played, and it's since left the shame pile. I think it got sold or traded or something, I can't remember. But Muse is probably the one that I haven't played, but I'm not that desperate to learn it. It's another one. It isn't as well regarded as some of the others. Maybe it's better, I don't know, you tell me in the comments, but I'm happy with what I've got so far. So that's it for me on this episode of The Broken Meeple. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up on YouTube. Let me know your comments down below about all 4 of these games, including the Detective Club and the Mysterium Park and that I've mentioned. It'd be cool to get your thoughts on that one. And of course, don't forget to check out more content on the channel. You know, the top 100 is in motion, so by all means check that. And there's going to be some reviews on the way soon for Imperium Horizons and Age of Rome, you know, and 1 or 2 others. So yeah, there's definitely content coming. By all means, check that out as well. So take care, and remember, as always, regardless if you love pictures or not, it's still only a game. So take care, and bye for now.